Hello everyone and welcome to lecture Emergent and Re-emergent Infections, Coronaviruses, the Cause of Aging, COVID-19, Monkeypox. The key concept of the lecture, Emergent and Re-emergent Infection, the challenge of the Noosphere to humanity for survival. My learning goals to you include: you will know emergent and re-emergent infection, consider their futures and significance for the healthcare system. You will understand with the list of the emergent and re-emergent infection and their cause of agent. You will appreciate the factor that cause the emergence of emergent and re-emergent infection in modern conditions. You will know the cause of agent of some current emerging infection like SARS, MERS, COVID-19, and monkeypox. Let's begin from the definition of emergent and re-emergent infection according to WHO. Emergency infection, extraordinary, unpredictable infection caused by new pathogen or novel microorganism, but with new biological properties. An emergent infection is one that has first appeared or been identified and has one or more of the following characteristics. It is difficult to treat. It continued to spread. It has spread widely, geographically or demographically. It is clinically severe or fatal. It has a new mode of transmission. Re-emergent infection, repeated, unexpected, return previously known and widespread infection, but controlled or particularly eliminated infection. They have become widespread again and the fight against which, especially at the initial stage of their occurrence, is extremely difficult or even impossible to repeat spread to a typical course. The introduction of this term is associated with the name of Mirko Durazen. It's Horvatian and French medical historian, writer and scientist, the author of the book on the history of AIDS. In 1993, he published an article where he used the term emergent disease as a more accurate concept than the term new disease, which at the time was used to definition AIDS among others. Even the second half of the 19th century, a decade before the discovery of the cause of aging of infection disease, some scientists wondered: does humanity suffer from certain list of the same disease, or on the contrary, do some diseases disappear and others appear from the first time? In 1989, the Conference Emergent Virus Evolution of the Viruses and Virulence Disease was held in Washington. As a subsequent result of this conference, the U.S. Institute of Medicine created interdisciplinary committee on emerging microbial health threats in 1991. The committee was supposed to conduct an 18-month study with the aim of identifying dangerous new infection disease, determining measures to combat them, and developing algorithms to counter future threats. In its progress report, the committee recommended the creation of the surveillance program to recognize emerging disease and propose methods of the intervention when they detection. Participants of the U.S. healthcare system, research and training development of vaccinate and drugs, vector control, public education, and behavior change. In 1994, the program of the monitoring of emergent disease PROMET was created. In 1995, journal Emerging Infection Disease was launched and introduced in the Scopus database. In 2000, WHO held a meeting on global outbreak alerts, response, and developed a relevant document, Act on Global Outbreak Alert and Response Network. In 2016, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness in Nation was launched under the slogan to create a world in which pandemics or epidemics no longer threaten humanity, with the aim of accelerating the development of vaccine against new infection. In recent years, the number of high-threat pathogens emerging or reemerging, for example, SARS-CoV, MERS-CoV, Lassa, Zika, Marburg, Ebola, Nipah, bird flu, the most extreme of which is SARS-CoV-2 and monkeypox. In 2020, WHO established the Scientific Advisory Group for Origin of Novel Pathogen, SAGO, to organize scientific research on emerging infection, including COVID-19. In this stage, SAGO carry out advisory activities regarding to technical and scientific research on new and emerging pathogens. I like to look at this map of risk of Center of Emerging and Reemerging Infection created by Director of the USA, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, Anthony Fauci. Since then, he has been constantly updating it, showing the emerging of new threat of infection disease. Emerging infection are marked in red, reemerging infection, and those that have causes a repeated outbreak in blue. Usual pathogens that have acute antibiotic resistance are included here, and black, deliberately artificially causes bioterrorism. It can be a leading organization, an institute for the study and control of emerging and reemerging infection, scientific advisory group for the origins of novel pathogen, scientific advisory group for origin and novel pathogen, SAGO, at WHO in 2021. For example, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease USA, Maryland. Next is Boston University National Emerging Infectious Disease Laboratory at Boston University USA, Massachusetts, the Institute of Emerging Infection, the Institute of Emerging Infection of the University of Oxford, and the Pandemic Science Institute, the Institute for the Study of Pandemic of University of Oxford, Great Britain, research laboratories at many universities around the world. Brief chronology of outbreaks of the emergent and reemerging infection, as you can see in the slide. The table shows events starting with the AIDS epidemic, a significant number of emergent and reemerging infection and events that occur early, not noted due to time and space limitation. If you look on the table, you can see in a different period in time, the indicate pathogen were discovered, the corresponding number of sick people and certain number of dead, unfortunately. Classification. One way to classification new infection disease is by mechanism of their occurrence and how people were involved in their occurrence. First of all, new infection disease that have not been previously described in humans, such as HIV/AIDS. Secondly, recurrent infection disease that have spread to new places or that are no longer controlled by accepted treatment methods, for example, methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Next, deliberately created infection disease created by people for bioterrorism. Next, infection disease that have arisen by accident. Disease that initially create or spread by humans, such as vaccine-derived poliovirus. If we say about classification by etiology, first of all, bacterial. Secondly, viral, fungal, protozoal, parasitic, and prions infection. As you are all aware about classification by degree of dangerous, we can say about category. As you can see on the table, category A includes such infections as plague, smallpox, anthrax, Ebola, Marburg. This disease tends to spread rapidly among the population causing high mortality and morbidity, can lead to large-scale panic and require the greatest efforts of the health service and specialized scientific research institutes and laboratory. Category B include cholera, mosquito-borne viral encephalitis. The disease are caused by less dangerous pathogens that spread more slowly than pathogen of the first group. They cause less morbidity and mortality. They include infection that are transmitted through food and water and some naturally occurring infection. Category C include tick-borne encephalitis, Bach infection. They are a cause of aging of serious disease which in current condition are not able to spread quickly, but they can be used for biological terrorism. I would like to draw your attention to this factor leading to appearance or return of infection in the report of International Organization for Migration in 1992, 6 factors contributing to the emergence of new disease were identified microbial adaptation and change, economic development and land use, demography and behavior, international travel and trade, technology and industry, violation of healthcare and measures. In 2003 report, this list was expanded to certain factors. First of all, it's adaptation and change of pathogens measures. Secondly, human susceptibility to infection inequality. Next is climate and weather, change of ecosystem, demography and human behavior, economic development and land use, international travel and commerce, technology and industry, disadvantage of public health, poverty and social, war and famine, absence of political influence, intent to cause. Amazon infection. What we should say more concrete. Since the end of the 70s of the last century, the emergence of new, previous, now dangerous infection disease have become a global problem. They were called emergency. The lack of the new layers to such pathogen create condition for the occurrence of local epidemics to even pandemics. Over the past 3-4 decades, more than 70 new zoonotic infections have been registered. Some of them are capable of infecting humans. According to medical statistics, out of 1,407 human infection agents, 177 are identified as emergent, and 130 of them is 73% as zoonotic. It has been established that the most common cause in emerging disease are viruses and bacteria that can be introduced with imported livestock products, imported animal or spread through wild fauna. African swine fever, spondyloencephalopathy, brucellosis, paratuberculosis, and another. Or when you unsubscribe and have no more of prevention, SARS, atypical pneumonia, like example. A special danger is caused by increasingly frequent contact of human with the bird and animal, which create optimal conditions for unpredictable sterilization in their bodies with the possibility of increased virulence. In addition, the persistence of the pathogen in microorganisms can lead to genetic combination both between the gene of the pathogen itself and between genes of the microorganism and host cell. This slide shows the viral pathogen, the year it was discovered, and their corresponding infection discounts, like rotavirus opened in 1973, including taxonomic class rotavirus and disease like rotavirus gastroenteritis, and other examples. List of the emergency infection. First of all, SARS, MERS-CoV, SARS-CoV-2, monkeypox, avian influenza, AH789 and AH5N1, legionellosis, listeriosis, yersiniosis, campylobacteriosis, helicobacteriosis, choleraria, tuberculosis, microti, enterohemorrhagic Escherichia, Lyme borreliosis, hemophilic Brazilian purple fever, and conjunctivitis, outbreak of hospital infection caused by aggressive strain of opportunistic microflora. We have to remember that individual emergent pathogen discovered at the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century, such as, for example, viruses, rotaviruses, human T-lymphotropic viruses, first type, human T-lymphotropic viruses, second type, human immunodiffusion virus, first type, human immunodiffusion, second type, human herpes viruses, sixth type, human herpes virus, seventh type, human herpes viruses, eighth type, hepatitis C virus, enterovirus, SARS-CoV, MERS-CoV, and Ebola virus, and SARS-CoV-2. If we say about bacteria, to this group we can include Legionella, Borrelia burgdorferi, Ehrlichia, Elizabeth kingi Anopheles. Fungi, it can be like example Candida auris. Have a look at the slide. Protozoan pathogen of the emerging disease and their role protozoan in the spread of emergent infection of viral etiology. In recent years, more and more attention in terms of emergent infection has been paid to amoeba living freely in soil and water. The ability of lecantamab to cause ulcerative keratoconjunctivitis in people who use contact lens, and as has been revealed, a rare case of fatal encephalitis in humans caused by lecantamab and Naegleria have been registered. The interaction of lecantamab with pathogenic Mycobacteria smegmatis, and Mycobacterium terraria, the last type of the Mycobacteria in terms of properties is close as possible to causal agent of human tuberculosis. It is possible that such an interaction occurs not only in experimental but also in natural conditions and may have practical epidemiological significance. In lecantamab, Lycra-Owen-gained viruses were discovered. Outbreaks of pneumonia associated, such as virus minivirus and norovirus, have been recorded in Marseille and Lyon. All this strengthens the medical importance of the free-living amoebas. A number of the studies have shown that lecantamab can accumulate and survive for a long time some pathogenic human viruses, adenoviruses, enteroviruses, influenza viruses. A change in epidemiological strategy and tactics in relation to free-living amoeba seems inevitable. Soil and water amoebas can play the role of the kind of triangle horse for the presentation of human infection agent of the inter-epidemic period. Repeated infection previously defeated and controlled infection disease that demonstrate a new epidemic potential due to emergence of antibiotic resistance, tuberculosis, weakening of the level of population immunity, measles, whooping cough, chickenpox, diphtheria, reduction in the fight against vector malaria. They again occur an unexpected distribution and became epidemiologically dangerous. The activation of the control infection associated with the various reasons. First of all, with the variability of the pathogen under the influence of the medication and other anthropogenic factors, the weakening of collective immunity, and spread of number of immunosuppressed people, HIV, AIDS, or another environmental factors, radiation, have been created atmosphere through his activities and permanently influenced it. Prominent example of such factors are vaccination, antibiotics, pesticides, or herbicide genetically modified crops. By canceling vaccination against smallpox, humanity placed itself at catastrophic threat, and the event of this return. List of their brain infection on the slide: tuberculosis, syphilis, toxoplasmosis, other hepatitis B, HIV infection, chlamydia infection, erythema, parvovirus 19, Zika virus, T-cell leukemia, measles, rubella, cytomegalovirus infection disease, and which cause herpes simplex virus, malaria, diphtheria, poliomyelitis, streptococcal, and staphylococcal infection. First of all, we should say about coronavirus. Family of coronavirus include 40 viruses, of which 7 viruses can infect humans. Of the 7, 4 viruses, 229E, NL63, OC43, and HKV1 cause diarrhea and respiratory illness, responsible for 10-15 of the cause. 229E strain and OC43 they discovered in 1960s. Another NL63 strain was first discovered in 2004 in the Netherlands, and the last one, HKU1, in 2005 in Hong Kong. The fifth coronavirus, SARS, was responsible for the SARS epidemic. In 2002, that began in China, and this is 6 MERS was responsible for the Middle East respiratory syndrome epidemic that began in 2012 in Saudi Arabia. The 7th virus, SARS-CoV-2, is responsible for the current pandemic that began in late 2009. Coronaviruses are ubiquitous and mainly affect birds and mammals. Suspectable hosts for coronavirus that circulate among the animals are pigs, causing fatal transmissible gastroenteritis, horses, dogs, and cats, felon infection, pertussis virus, bats, mice, rats, and another. In bird, the deadly chicken bursitis coronavirus has been known for a long time. Coronaviruses also affect only cranes, turkeys, and another animals. So, about morphology. Morphology and biological properties of coronavirus. Coronavirus is a complex and valid virus with a positive single-stranded unfragmentation RNA. Approximately 2/3 of the genome contain 2 large, overlapping open reading frames. The non-contained reading frame for the structure proteins, including spikes, papillomeres, S, envelope proteins E, transmembrane protein M, and nuclear protein M. Genotypically, coronavirus can be divided into 3 groups. Group 3 viruses are found exclusively in the birds. In birds, while viruses from the Group 1 and 3 mainly affect mammals. Variants of the medium size 100-120 nanometers have a surface with lipid membrane, supercapsid, and characteristically shaded papillomeres that form a crown-like halo. I think everybody has heard about biological properties of the coronavirus, moderately resistant of physical and chemical activity. As you can see in this table, coronavirus has spatial biological properties. If you say about strategy of genome of coronaviruses, it consists of few stages. Attachment to S protein, penetration into the cell by receptors and cytosis, antidressing in the endosome by the fusion of the supercapsid with the endosome membrane at the expense of the subunit 2 of the S protein, S2. Translation on ribosome of primary non-structured viral proteins by viral plus RNA. They are proteins from the vesicles from the cell membrane, where replication of plus RNA for structured proteins take place. Next, transcription, formation of negative RNA, and genome replication it positive RNA and the cytoplasm transcription in negative RNA, vesicle form from information negative RNA of other proteins and synthesis of this information negative RNA. Next, translation on ribosome of the structure and necessary protein by information negative RNA from the vesicles. Assembly of virus on the Golgi apparatus. Formation of the vesicles from the membrane of the Golgi apparatus around virions. Release of virions from the cell and the vesicles is like secretion, not beating. Reproduction begins with the absorption to S glycoprotein, when the virion recognizes the receptor of the sensitive cell. Further, vacuole is formed from the cytoplasm membrane, and the virion penetrates inside by endocytosis. The nucleic capsid is realized from the vacuole as a result of the fusion of the supercapsid with the membrane. First of all, synthesis of non-structured protein takes place on the matrix of viral genome plus RNA. Then their protein ensure the formation of vacuoles where RNA replication for structured protein will take place. Genome RNA is replicated in cytoplasm. That is, matrices for proteins are formed in special vacuoles, and matrices for genome and genome transmitter they are in cytoplasm. All stages occur with the involvement of the nucleus. The virus is similar with several independent parts of the membranes of the Golgi apparatus, from the which it forms vesicles and which leaves of the cell by secretion. The vesicles contain the virion fused with the cytoplasmic membrane of the cell, and their virions are realized. Epidemic coronaviruses. SARS-CoV, according to the World Health Organization, WHO, the first group of the cases of the typical pneumonia occurred in the China in the November 2002. Studies have identified harsher bats as a natural reservoir of SARS-CoV. Seaweeds and other animals in markets also likely contribute to the spread of the virus from the animal to humans. More than 100 deaths from the new infection disease were first reported to WHO in 9 February 2003. The next day, China's Ministry of Health made an official report of 300 cases and 5 deaths due to acute respiratory syndrome. On the 12th March 2003, WHO issued a global warning about the spread of the SARS among the hospital staff. 4 days later, the WHO adopted the name SARS and issued an emergency message for the travels. Be aware the symptoms of this condition. It has been suggested that the disease is spread around the world by people who use air transport. Let's move on to MERS. It's caused by infection with the MERS-CoV coronavirus, Middle is respiratory syndrome-related coronavirus, MERS-CoV. On September 20, 2020, the Emerging Disease Monitoring Program reported a novel coronavirus isolated from the sputum sample of the 60-year-old man from Saudi Arabia who died 3 months ago. Over the next month, the number of the confirmed MERS cases rose to 9, with 5 dead. The earliest case dates to April 2012. Worldwide, 27 countries have reported cases of MERS since 2020, but about 80% of the cases have occurred in Saudi Arabia. MERS-CoV is a zoonotic virus, meaning the most causes of infection are transmitted from the animal to human. According to WHO, direct or indirect contact with the camels is the most common route of infection. Human-to-human transmission is rare and is mostly occur among mainly member or healthcare settings. The MERS-CoV virus is similar to European bat coronavirus. So, COVID-19. The SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus is a pathogen that causes COVID-19. The first cases of COVID-19 were reported in Wuhan, China in December 2019. On January 5, 2020, WHO published the first news about outbreaks of unknown cause. By the end of January, the organization declared COVID-19 a public health emergency of international concern. The name COVID-19 was officially introduced by WHO in February 11. In exactly 1 month, the organization announced a pandemic. To date, a case of the COVID-19 have been reported in all countries except Antarctica. Governments of various countries responded with a very social distance measuring in an effort to curb the spread of the virus. Coronavirus. It should be emphasized that the past and today's of the 3 new coronaviruses that we have emerged since the turn of the century have caused outbreaks of the respiratory disease, but each has also demonstrated unique characteristics. SARS and MERS have significantly higher fatality rates than COVID-19. However, COVID-19 is more contagious. The main virus SARS-CoV-2 spreads more easily among people living and increase in case. Despite the low fatality rate, the total number of deaths from the COVID-19 far exceeds the number of deaths from the SARS or MERS. What we should say about pathogen? Pathogen of infection is caused by SARS-CoV-2. Unlike other pathogenic coronavirus that cause seasonal SARS, COVID-19 replication in the upper replication tract initially without pronounced clinical picture. However, after a few days of the latent period, changes in the metabolic process begin in the cell, which disrupt unusual rhythm of the work, including the synthesis of the necessary ingredients of the functioning of them alveoli. Then the cells are destroyed, and according to one of the scenarios of apoptosis, unable to support the life of the alveoli of the lungs, with the development of respiratory distress syndrome. The SARS-CoV-2 virus has an extremely high affinity for the transmembrane cell receptors. The ACA2 protein, SARS-CoV-2, appears to be optimized for binding to the human ACA2 receptors. It is a tropism for ACA2 receptors that ensure its contact with the target organs. As is known, ACA2 occupies up to 25% of the structure of the cell membrane of epithelial cell, primary alveolar cell. Moreover, They are different in their presence and concentration of the protein on the cell surface. First, it has been proven that its concentration is the minimum in younger children and gradually increase, reaching a maximum and an older age 40, 90 years. It's probably explained the low incidence of children, and in the event of the illness, it usually has a mild, uncomplicated course. This ability has a considerable clinical significance. First, it determines the high tropism of the pathogen to epithelial cell, which have a higher density of ACA2 protease receptors. Secondly, it explains the spatial vulnerable of different age categories of patient and their development of pathology, mainly in their respiratory tracts, especially in their distal part, alveoli. The representation of ACA2 receptor has higher density of cell of the alveolar and bronchopulmonary tree of the lungs and somewhat lower in the intestines. Therefore, the most vulnerable organ is the lungs, especially their digital alveolar part, which leads to mesoplasma seepage through the porous membrane and alveolar wall into the intestinal sphere with the formation of the cleaning in lungs pseudopneumonia, pseudoedema. Now, as acute respiratory distress syndrome, it has been proven that a severity of cause COVID-19 related with the so-called cytokine storm, hyperproduction pro-inflammatory cytokines, proteins of acute phase of inflammatory plots. There is an increase in a number of macrophages recurring from the monocytes. Their infiltration of the intestine of the lungs, kidneys, liver, heart, and other organs and systems. This generally fits into the syndrome of the acute macrophage and monocyte inflammation. And the macrophage infiltration, there introduces the interstitium of alveoli. The presence of viral genome was proven by PCR. Deep lymphopenia is observed. The number of CD8 T lymphocytes decreases especially significant to apoptosis. The level of type 4 interferon increase. All this indicates deep immunological changes in the body of the patient with COVID-19, which is an essential link of pathogenesis. What we should say about specific prevention? Specific prevention, vaccination issue. A few types of vaccine. The only hope of the humanity to overcome the coronavirus pandemic is to create a large fire of the immunity in the population. The pronounce the variability of the pathogen significantly interferes with the development of the natural immunity among those who have become ill. Now, the world community is focused on creating the large total immunization, not only medical measuring IQs, but also social one. In this short period of time, a large number of vaccinations were developed, which by conclusion belong to among all species and generations. All variants inactivate vaccine. Inactivate vaccine use a dead virus. It cannot produce, but it stores protein to which an immune response is produced in their composition. Inactivate vaccine similar to the real virus. They cause strong immune response, and at the same time they are suitable for people with weakened immunity. Inactivated vaccines are difficult to manufacture and therefore have high cost. Among the drug against COVID-19, such vaccines are registered so far. CoronaVac vaccine of the Sinovac Biotech Laboratory, China. According to this test result, Vaccines show high safety and effectiveness at the level of 78%. It prevents moderate and severe form of coronavirus in 100% of cases. The vaccine is stored at temperature from 2000 centigrade to 80 centigrade from up to 3 years. Recombinant viruses. Recombinant viruses, vector vaccine, it's like vector vaccine, are a separate class of the drug for creating immune protection. A vector is a virus that lack the reproduction gene and safe for the health. A vector vaccine is an artificially made hybrid of the DNA or two viruses, adenovirus and coronavirus. Possible violation in the development of the immune response of the vector vaccine, like immune vector, like this. Okay, if a person recently fell ill with 85 or 8026 serotypes of the virus and has an active immunity against it, then the adenovirus reaction will be detected by antibody and destroyed before it has time to deliver the coronavirus DNA fragment into cell. In this case, the immunity response does not develop. If immediately after vaccination, a person becomes infected with any other adenovirus circulating in the population, then the viral adenovirus will share the product of the genome absent in the adenovirus vector, and the vector incapable of their reproduction will become a full-fledged infection virus, which will also begin to reproduce itself. In this case, the immune response can be changed, distorted, or changed. This reaction to vaccination with the vector vaccine, fever, measles, at a level close to adult seasonal influenza vaccine. In the world, 5 vector vaccines are now proposed for the widespread use. This is American Johnson Pharmacy Company. Secondly, it's American Belgian vaccine Johnson Johnson. Chinese Cantina Biological Institution. British Swedish Vaccine University of Oxford AstraZeneca. Vaccine based on mRNA American Vaccine BioNTech, Fosun Pharma, Pfizer, Moderna, based on the messenger RNAs, encoding the S protein of the coronavirus's spike. Adventures stimulation of immunity without contact with the body with virus. A nanoparticle, it's a microvesicles bubble is used. It contains mRNA and encode the synthesis of S protein, cell into which mRNA enters are not damaged in any way. Protein extraction lasts over several days. Good cellular and humoral immunity is formed. Such a vaccine is from 5 to 10 times more expensive than a vector or whole viral vaccine, and requires special conditions for transportation, storage, and use for continuing cold chain, especially minus 70 Celsius degree. Laboratory diagnostics. Laboratory diagnostics of the coronavirus infection. Molecular genetic diagnostics. It's a classic way. It's a PCR. It's a gold standard. It's recommended by WHO. The research material is smeared from the oropharynx and nasopharynx. Serological diagnostics ELISA is aimed at determining different classes of anti-corona immunoglobulins. Immunoglobulin M antibody So this SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus are produced 5-7 days after contact with the virus and decrease on the 18th day of the disease. They are served as a marker or infection, the acute stage of disease, and usually circulate in the blood for a short time. The result of this study the result of this study can be a false positive in this presence of autoimmune and oncological disease. In this case, it is important to additionally test or analyze for the detection of immunoglobulin A. The indication for examination in the presence of the symptom of the disease, cough, high fever, difficulty breathing, contact with infected people, also used to different diagnostic with the other disease. Immunoglobulin G to the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus are formed on 10-15 days of the disease. The level of the antibody increases gradually and remain at the high level for a long time. A level of immunoglobulin G present in the body serum, and this can confirm the fact of infection in the past and determine the presence of a specific immune response. The final diagnosis cannot be established only on the basis of the result of serological tests. When establishing disease, the result of the complex laboratory and instrumental studies, as well as clinical manifestation of the disease, should be taken in account. Cross-reaction with antibody to antigen of other coronavirus cannot be completely excluded. In addition, the result of the study in patient with oncological disease and disorder of the immune system should be interpreted with caution. The presence of antibody of this class in newborns is not evidence of SARS-CoV-2 infection. Immunoglobulin G to the spike protein of the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus detected in more than 9% of the patient 2 weeks after the confirmed disease symptom or vaccination. Their definition makes it possible to assess immunity to this virus. Antibodies to this adhesion protein have neutralizing properties and block the binding of the virus to cell receptors, thereby providing protection effect. It is primarily indeed for monitoring the level of immune protection after an illness or for evaluating the effectiveness of vaccination to identify person at increased risk of infection. Determination of SARS-CoV-2 antigen in routine diagnostics is carried out by repeat immunofluorescence tests. Material for research smear from the nasopharynx. The smear is taken with this spatial pink swab, placed in the test tube with buffer it and thoroughly mixed. Then 3 drops of the mixture and introduced in the window of the castles. The result is it calculated within 15 minutes. Correct sampling of the material. It's exactly from the nasopharynx, not from the nasal cavity or the black hole of the pharynx. Well, described for the validity validation of the test. Use the tag carries or confirm clinical of the clinical diagnostics. The test is really qualitative. It does not provide an opportunity to determine the amount of the pathogen of the dynamics of the quantitative changes. If you receive a negative result and there are doubts about the possibility, you should resort to PCR. Okay. Moving on To the next part. Well, we will talk about monkeypox. Monkeypox virus is zoonotic, naturally focal smallpox-like disease from the group of those caused by virus from the from the pox virus family. Monkeypox virus was first isolated in 1958 at Serum Institute Denmark from the monkey. The causative agent of monkeypox is classified as biological agent that is officially recognized as a possible biological weapon. Taxonomically, the monkeypox virus belongs to genus Orthopoxvirus, which is part of the Orthopoxvirinae subfamily of the Poxviridae family and has a structure typical like pox virus. A few facts about distribution of the monkeypox around the world. First of all, we should say since the eradication of smallpox approximately 40 years ago, monkeypox virus remains the most pathogenic pox virus. There are no reports of monkeypox in humans until 1960, with a few case report in Nigeria between 1961 and 1971 to 1978. Monkeypox was subsequently reported in some African countries: Cameroon, Central African Republic, Republic of Congo, Gabon, Liberia, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone. Some of their countries have had only a few cases, while others have a sustainable or recurrent outbreaks. During an outbreak in Nigeria between 2070 and 2090, 300 people contracted monkeypox, about 6% died. Currently, outbreak of monkeypox are being reported in places where the virus has not been seen before. In Europe, the America, in Western Pacific, the Eastern Mediterranean, and Southeast Asia. As for the African continent, the incident is high here, and in particular in the Democratic Republic of Congo, there is an ongoing outbreak in which more than 5,000 people have been infected. Since 2022, the world has been a sharp rise in the incidence of the monkeypox. As of 20 December 2022, there were more 22,000 confirmed cases in 28 countries. It's 63 causes in the Western Balkans and Turkey, and a significant number of Nigeria and the Republic of Congo and the Central African Republic. With transmission and manifestation of monkeypox. Monkeypox virus is mostly spread through the contact with the wild animals such as rodents and primates. Can be transmitted between humans through the contact with injuries, body fluids, respiratory droplets, or contaminated clothing or bedding. Cases of intra-hospital and intra-laboratory infection are described. Monkeypox is spread from the person to person through close contact with someone who has a monkeypox rash. Sexual transmission is also possible if there is information about the infection of the virus in the reproductive tract of the man. As a result, the fact this disease crosses the interspecies barriers. WHO began to actively deal with it. Monkeypox has symptoms similar to smallpox, such as a widespread pustular rash with a fever and exhaustion, in addition to inflammation of the respiratory tract, encephalitis, and marked lymphadenopathy. Any unique feature of the causative agent of monkeypox, first of all, in a composition of causative agent of natural smallpox. Yet that it will be impossible to eliminate this virus due to its natural reserve among the animal, and the number of cases this infection among people has been steadily increasing. Morphology. Monkeypox virus is represented a DNA containing complex virus, double-stranded DNA, has a large size. The shape of the virion is a brick-like with rounded corners. The core contains genomic DNA surrounded by membrane. Oval shaped lateral bodies are located between core and supercapsid. Viral DNA consists of approximately um, 1,090 pairs of the nucleotides and encode about 20 proteins. Such a genome as comparable the genome of small bacteria. The virion includes a nucleoprotein and also structure protein, a complete set of molecular mechanisms of replication and transcription of genomic RNA. RNA polymerase replicated with the viral genome. RNA polymerase transcribed messenger RNA from the DNA. Enzyme then did 7-methyl G-gap and poly-A tails to messenger RNA, making them ready for translation and a virus protein by cellular ribosome protease that relies from the endosome and realized DNA. Protease and metal protease for virion maturation. The supercapsid is associated with the viral surface protein responsible for adhesion and endocytosis and exocytosis of virions. And of virions. Okay, biological properties. Biological properties of the monkeypox virus show extreme resistance to desinfection, as well as increased intolerance to temperature and pH compared to other involved viruses, which determine their persistence in the environment. In one study, active virus was detected 15 days after the patient left their residence. Other evidence suggests that orthopox virus can survive in the home-like environment for the weeks to months and longer to porous material, bedding, clothing than on smooth surface like plastic, glass, and metal. In the dried state, monkeypox virus remained infection for up to 35 weeks and temperature of 4 Celsius degree. At the same time, monkeypox virus, like other orthopox virus, is very sensitive to ultraviolet radiation and despite their ability to persist in the environment, are also susceptible to many disinfectants, although they may be less susceptible to organic disinfectants than other involved viruses. In this picture, the picture shows the genome structure monkeypox virus. A special stage of reproduction. First of all, absorption to specific receptors on the cytoplasm membrane. Next, penetration with cytosis, exit from the endosome, destruction of supercapsid by viral protease, particular transcription of the genome and synthesis of mRNA from which the stripping enzyme is translated on the ribosome of the cell to liberate of the genome, and realizing genome. After this, start synthesis of early mRNAs for the non-structured viral protein, synthesis of late mRNAs for structured viral protein, replication of viral DNA with the participation of viral DNA polymerase new genome assembly of virions maturation. The formation of endosome on the membrane of the Golgi apparatus relies of new generation of virions by exocytosis. Reproduction of the virions occur in the cytoplasm. The nucleus is not involved. So let's move on to vaccination. The issue of vaccination, the possibility of using smallpox vaccine to protect against monkeypox. The main direction in this fight against monkeypox should be vaccination. Vaccination against smallpox and cowpox also protect against monkeypox. There is no licensed vaccine for immunization against monkeypox in Europe. However, because monkeypox is antigenically related to varicella virus, varicella vaccine provide cross protection against monkeypox virus. Smallpox vaccine modified vaccine Ankara, Bavaria Nordic, which was created for the prevention of smallpox with the aim of increasing the safety of vaccination by reducing the side effect that occur this route immunization with a live vaccine. Cipro in the UK and in the UK has already been used and response to current and previous incident for of monkeypox. Under the name Genocide MVA-BN, it is approved in the USA and Canada for the prevention of both monkeypox and varicella. Prior to outbreak, which began in May 2022, it was recommended for those working with potentially monkeypox infected material in laboratories, as well as healthcare workers who could potentially provide care to monkeypox patients. The vaccine is made from the Ankara strain in the vaccinia virus, which was subjected to multiple passage in the chicken fibrillized cell culture, which contributed to its attenuate, which was accompanied by the loss some genes and their ability to reproduction in mammalian cell. Given the possible pandemic potential of the current monkeypox virus agent, ring vaccination is being considered to break the chain of the transmission and prevent severe disease, and such ring vaccination has already been introduced in the UK. CDC recommends vaccination for laboratory personnel who perform testing for OPXV, including monkeypox virus. Risk of infection can be high. Higher risk is a direct contact of the damaged skin or mucous membrane with the patient biological substance, being in close contact with him during procedures with the formation of an aerosol without wearing appropriate personal respiratory protection. Medium risk is a direct contact between intact skin and biological material for a patient with monkeypox. It's staying within radius at about 2 meters from the patient or the mom, than 3 hours, or providing medical care to patient with monkeypox without appropriate personal protection equipment. Low, if you say low stage, low possibility is provision of the medical assistance to patient, provide they wear appropriate personal protective equipment. Even before WHO declared an MME emergency, the Biden-Harris administration USA announced on 28 June 2022 the first phase of the national MR vaccination strategy as an important part of the response for the outbreak in this disease. The USA is ramping up the vaccine production significantly with in huge concentration doses planned for distribution in the coming weeks. 56,000 immediately and 1.6 million doses in the coming months. If we say about specific treatment, the antiviral agent like tecotiramide approved by FDA for the treatment of the human varicella in adults and children, storage in the highly conserved OPXV involve develop protein inhibition. Viron realize. Brilcidofovir, a drug used to treat cytomegalovirus infection, has demonstrated efficacy against OPX virus in vitro and animal studies. The mechanism of action inhibition DNA protection of pox virus 2. Laboratory diagnostics. As a general rule, the gold standard is molecular genetic diagnostics using the polymerase chain reaction, followed by sequencing. Material for research which change from the skin lesion. Biological material is handled in accordance with the safety level 2, BSL2, practice using the appropriate equipment and facilities. For the final establishment of the etiology and viral methods we use, exclusively an accredited laboratory of the BCL3 level, serological indication of an antigen like ELISA, reaction fluorescence, immunochromatography test, it's like weekly test. Serological serological diagnostic is suitable for epidemiological monitoring, retrospectability analysis, and diagnosis of late clinical manifestation like encephalitis. Both these results are determined by cross-reactivity to other pox viruses and in previously vaccinated against smallpox. With regard to researched material, it can be more informative to study saliva and sample from the mucous membrane of the rectum or oropharynx. The disease has removed with general symptoms, fever, fatigue, and large lymphatic nodes, and absence of the skin manifestation, but the patient is already contagious in this time. The pathogen is contained in various biological fluids. During the previous MRSA outbreaks, saliva was shown to be a factor in person-to-person transmission of the virus for a number of the patient. Viral DNA and the saliva of the monkeypox virus-infected people has been detected even before the appreciation of the characteristic rash, and skin manifestation cannot be considered for the first clinical scene of the disease. I would like to sum up. Under certain conditions, the causative agent of the infection disease can overcome interspecies virus, and such a transformation led to appearance in new allergen dangerous infection. Emergent and reemergent disease depend on environmental, anthropogenic influences and the evolution of the pathogen. Next, it's the possibility of the appearance of the new pathogen of mass infection disease is to some extent connected with the success of biotechnology in creating artificial pathogen. COVID-19 and monkeypox are typical emergent disease and serious challenges for humanity. This is the end of my presentation. Thanks for your attention.